Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests. How many of you have ever been to New York City? Just about everybody. It's the city that never sleeps. You have tall buildings, long New York City blocks. You have uptown, downtown, midtown, Central Park, all those taxi cabs and sirens blaring night and day. For entertainment, you have Carnegie Hall, Broadway, Metropolitan Museum of Art, great food and restaurants. And what ties the city together is the subway. And it's hectic enough to learn the first time you're on it. I remember the first time I was on the subway, and I got lost in the Bronx on 6 Trillionth Street. The Big Apple, sophisticated city for sure. It can be humorous, scary too. I remember I was at the library, and I was over here in a conversation with something like this. There was a guy, he wanted a library card, and he asked the attendant, "Can I get a library card from you?" And the attendant says, "Well, can you show me a proof of citizenship from New York?" And he said, "No, I'm from Chicago." And he said, and the attendant says, "Well, does that make you something special? Because I understand that Chicago is now the murder capital of the United States." And the guy from Chicago said, "That's surprising, since New York has 2 NFL football teams." I share these stories with you because I traveled to New York in my 20s and 30s. This is where I learned the art of selling, how to catch a taxi in the rain, and the difference between Monet and Picasso. As a result, I grew up in a hyperactive environment that I think accelerated my growth. But before I could grow, I had to learn a few things in Gotham, the city that never sleeps. I was new to sales, and this was my first trip to New York City. My manager went along with me so he could show me the ropes and coach me. Even still, I was pretty confident. We were meeting with the senior vice president of a large money center bank. His name was Mr. Jones. He was about 6'3", had balding hair, pot-bellied, thick New York accent. And the day before, he said that he'd played golf and shot his best score. Well, I noticed on his forehead that he had what looked like a sunburn. And so to try to build a little rapport with Mr. Jones, I said, is that what on your forehead? Did you get your sunburn playing golf yesterday? And he said, "No, son, that's a birthmark." I was embarrassed. I said, "I'm sorry," and I kept my mouth shut the rest of the meeting. When we got out of the meeting, my manager gave me a few pointers, and one of those is, never assume, especially in a sales call. In the afternoon, we met with Mr. Luciano, and he is the executive vice president at the largest bank in the country. And my manager decided he was going to conduct the sales call for fear I might say something out of the ordinary. Mr. Luciano wouldn't even look at me, and I felt a little self-conscious and a little fidgety. And when the meeting ended, Mr. Luciano shook my manager's hand but wouldn't shake mine. And I immediately went to the restroom. I took off my coat, I inspected it, see if there was anything on it. I looked at my tie and my white shirt, and I then looked at my belt, and I noticed my fly was down. It had been down the entire meeting. I was mortified. When we rode down the elevator, my manager said, "You know, that meeting went pretty well, but I felt there was a little tension in the room." And I said, "Tension? I didn't feel any tension." When we got to the street level, Tiffany's was across the street. And that's where you could catch a taxi. My manager had to be downtown at another meeting. And so we caught separate taxis. When mine drove up, I opened the door, threw my garment bag in, as well as my briefcase. And then a man approaches me, and he said, "Is that your money on the ground?" And it looked like it was $2. I said, "No." And then out of the corner of my eye, I noticed another guy is coming around, opening the door, and now grabbing my garment bag. And now we're in the back seat, and we're in a tug of war just like this, like you would see on cartoon. And I said, "Let go!" And he let go, and the garment bag exploded, basically, and my clothes flew out all over Fifth Avenue. That day was my day in infamy. I will never forget it. I did some serious soul searching. Do I really want to be in sales? Instead of folding tent, I decided to learn from my mistakes. For example, the man with the bald head, with the birthmark, taught me never to assume about anything. And the wardrobe malfunction I had taught me some humility, and my confidence level, where it was like this, it came down a little bit. And I promised myself I would never look down for any money unless it was for a 24-karat gold-plated bar from Fort Knox. As the traditional song goes, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. It's up to you, New York, New York.